Today I'd like to talk to you about 7 must-have plumbing tools to add to your kit that'll make you more professional. So today I'm going to start out with what made one of the most noticeable differences in how I install water heaters, and unfortunately it took me years to figure this out. So I'm going to start with these tin snips right here. I had always just bought the cheapest tin snips I could buy, and they always cut terribly. And I'd always be fighting with smoke pipe when I'm doing a water heater install and just, oh, why couldn't I get a straight cut? And, you know, I didn't know if it was my cutting method or the angle I was holding it at. But it turns out, so years later, you know, I started rebuying tools that I already had, you know, when I had a little more money. And I started replacing some of my cheaper tools with nicer tools. So I bought these Weiss Tin Snips, and the first time I used them, it was like one of those aha moments. It's like, why did I fight with smoke pipe for years with just ugly cuts, and it just took up so much time on the job too. So that's the first thing I'd like to say. Get a good pair of tin snips. That will make a huge difference. It'll make your jobs look cleaner. It will save you a lot of aggravation. So, good pair of tin snips. I'm not sponsored by any of these companies that I recommend. I just recommend quality tools that have helped me in my career. You know, I do put affiliate links in the description if you feel like supporting me, but other than that, you know, I have no dog in the fight in terms of what tools I recommend. I just want you guys to have the best tools to make your jobs easier. You know, plumbing's hard enough without having to fight with the tools. So Weiss Tin Snips, awesome, must have. Now, that brings us right into these crimpers for smoke pipe. Now this, believe it or not, is just a cheap pair. This, you know, you're crimping the end of smoke pipe. And this is also a must-have. If you don't have crimpers and you're trying to do a water heater install with some brand new smoke pipe, you're going to be fighting to get that, you know, male end into the female end of the chimney. Don't do that. Get a good pair of crimpers. It'll make your job much easier, much cleaner, much neater. And there's not too much to say about these other than you need a pair. You really can't do much without these. You'll be fighting with the smoke pipe all day. All right, so let's talk about something that really makes a difference too. And this is kind of a new school thing. In the old days when I worked with plumbers starting out and they needed to, you know, break open some sheetrock to expose, you know, what was behind it, or we're looking for a leak, you know, a lot of the older guys, they take their hammer and they just start bashing away. Boom, making these big ugly holes in the sheetrock to just find the leak, do what they could. But years later, I work with some more professional guys, and they saw me do that. They were like, hey, we need you to expose these pipes. And I went to go take my hammer, and they're like, what, are you nuts? They're like, who taught you how to do that? And whatever. So they gave me a sheetrock saw. This is a must-have. If you're going to, you know, cut into some sheetrock, or you need to expose, or you're looking for a leak or whatever, you know, do it the right way. Even if you're not the guy who's going to be repairing the hole. You know, usually the plumber will say, hey, I'm not a carpenter. I fix the leak, I take care of it, and it's the carpenter's problem. But you know what? We're trying to be professionals, right? We're trying to do a nice, clean job. Get a nice sheetrock saw. Make a nice smooth cut. Make it look nice. Take some pride in your job. You know, that'll set you apart. Not just with your boss, but also with the customers. You know, they want to see that you're caring and respecting their house. So, you know, I recommend it. Any sheetrock saw will do. I'm sure there's probably better or worse ones, but I'm going to be honest. As long as it's nice, sharp, and you do have to replace these from time to time because the blades get a little jiggly or whatever from, you know, just kind of like working them in the wall. But I found just any inexpensive one that you can grab is still better than not having it. So this next tool that I want to talk about is, for me, it was a game changer. Now, this can be used for service, but I started using these doing commercial roughs. And it's a little on the pricier side, but it's a must-have if you're going to be doing a lot of compression angle stops. And that's this rigid it's a compression angle stop wrench. And the way it works is, without having an angle stop here, is this would stick into the 3/8 compression side once it's on the wall, and you'd be able to crank down on that 5/8 nut, and it keeps it straight. And it's really just, you could be killing it with the angle stops with this. We were going floor by floor, making our cuts in the copper, throwing angle stops on, and you really see a lot of times when you're doing it with 2 channel locks or whatever, you're not really getting that good grip to make it straight. Plus, you don't want to, scratch up the body of the angle stop. So this sticking in there in the 3/8 side, and then cranking down with the wrench on this, as you see, you could literally keep it perfectly laser straight while dealing with it. Now this, last time when I bought these years ago, they were around $30, which for a tool, a wrench, a plumbing tool, it's kind of up there. It was up there at the time. Who knows what they cost now? Like I said, I'll put a link in the description because this rigid wrench is just awesome. It's called the one-stop wrench, and it was a game changer for me. Made my job easier, so I hope it makes your jobs easier as well. So these next tools, specifically these two, these are kind of unorthodox tools. They're not really necessary in every job, but they make a big difference. So this one, you're going to rarely use it, but when you do use it, it's going to set you apart. So every once in a while, you'll be dealing with rigid supplies, and that's faucet supplies, toilet supplies. Usually nowadays, you'll see a toilet supply because it's exposed. And so maybe someone has like a brush nickel finish or an oil rub bronze finish, and it's exposed toilet supply. So you can't just use a flexible out of the truck. You got to use a rigid toilet supply. Years ago, all supplies were rigid, and that's supposedly what guys say real plumbers use, right? But as we know, everyone really uses the flexibles now. It's a big time saver. Most guys don't have the traditional benders on the truck, but this spring bender right here will save you a lot of time. It'll keep you from kinking supplies. Some of those more expensive finished supplies are actually pretty expensive. And to get a good bend without kinking it, a nice exposed bend, you're going to want this spring bender. They're inexpensive, they're cheap, and it really, without it, you're going to have a poorly looking finished product. So this spring bender, you may use it once every few years, but when you use it one time, it's already paid for itself. Like I said, these are inexpensive, but they make a big difference, and they set you apart as a professional. All right, so this next tool right here is pretty interesting. The long magnetic tip screwdriver. Now this one, it's actually given to me by Navien, and it's used for some of their tankless units to, whether it's a boiler or water heater, to get deep into the unit, to get to some of those screws that are just tough to get to otherwise. But a screwdriver like this, a long screwdriver, will come in handy in so many ways. Just to be able to get something without having to take off the things in front of it. There's so many ways, with tools. Like I said in the previous video with the channel locks, you want to have multiple different sizes of the same tool. Now, while I do have this long screwdriver, I also have very short screwdrivers, very narrow screwdrivers, because you want the right tool for the job. Could I use this on a shorter, closer job? Yeah, of course I could. It would be a little ridiculous. Now, with the opposite, I can't use the stubby screwdriver to get to the back of a Navien unit. I need this screwdriver. When you have tools like this, the work goes faster. It's less aggravation for you. It sets you apart. When you're getting your calls done and you're still in one piece and your attitude's intact at the end of it, that sets you apart. Don't be a grumpy plumber. All right, so we're going to put that down right there. Okay. So this next tool, and I have a bonus tool for us. These are unorthodox because many plumbers don't actually carry these, but these are a big game changer. So I worked with a guy who was one of my plumbing mentors. He was one of the best plumbers I ever met, and he still plumbs to this day. I've witnessed this guy do the impossible. We'd be on jobs together, and it'd be early in the morning, and I'm looking at this work, and I'm thinking, how are we ever going to get this done by 5 o'clock? And he would just get to work and he would just say, you know what? The job will get done. They all get done. We'll make this happen. And it didn't matter whether it was residential, commercial, whether it was just large diameter, smaller diameter pipe or large diameter pipe. This guy got it done. And he had a very simple toolkit. But one thing that he had in his toolkit that was strange to me was this flat bar, and obviously this is my own. And I said, wow, this is weird. Why does this guy have a little flat crowbar in his toolkit? So I worked with him, and I worked with him when I was younger too, and I didn't really have my own tools, so I would use his tools. I mean, we would use this for digging, for prying, for, getting nails out, for holding something in place. This flat bar came in handy so many times, and I've never seen another plumber with a flat bar in their bag. I mean, comment in the description if you have, but I bought one after using his on so many different jobs and it working out so awesomely. I was just like, man, I got to get one of these. And I got a few, actually. This is like probably the second one I've gone through. You lose them, like every other tool on the job, right? You put it down, you in a wall, this, that, and the other thing, you clean up, you want to get out of there. But this flat bar, I recommend this for anyone. Just put one in your tool bag. You will find the use for this, and you'll thank me. You'll be like, you know what? I thought this was ridiculous, but I've used this thing so many times. And, as you can see, this is like the hole for the nails, and you can take out nails from the front. I mean, listen, a lot of plumbers will carry a cat's paw to get out nails, which is great. But let me tell you something. You're not going to get those nails out as quickly as you will with this. And, listen, some nails are very stubborn. You want this. Let's just say that. All right? So this brings me to the bonus tool. All right? Now, don't get angry. This is actually a carpenter's tool. And another thing, I saw guys with these, and I'm thinking to myself, that's not a plumber's tool. Why is this in your bag, But the speed square has came in handy so many times for me. It's a nice way to get a straight line on something, because obviously that lip will put on, boom, I'm marking a straight line. I'm measuring, there's angles. Now, how would I use this and how have I used this? Well, a lot of times, as you guys know, when you're dealing with studs, you want to create, some backing or whatever. You need to cut a 2x4, and, obviously we're cutting it with a Sawzall, right? Because we don't usually have the circular saw on the job. We're plumbers, we're not carpenters. But this, when you're making a nice straight line and you can just, boom, you get a perfect measurement on that 2x4 or that piece of wood, you put that speed square on, you get a nice line, you get a nice even cut, and that goes right in between those beams perfectly. And then you're drilling your screws in, you got some nice backing, and it makes a difference. Like, don't be a butcher. Like, as plumbers, one of the biggest things that lets people know whether or not you're a professional or you're an amateur. Well, there's two things, and I'll tell you what they are. The speed at which you can do these things, which the tools help with the speed, obviously, because the faster you can get a job done and solve that problem, the faster you are, fixing the customer's issue, the faster you're getting paid and being able to go on to the next job and making your boss more money, because that's what you're there to do. You're there to make the boss money so that his business can keep on going and you can still have a job. Never forget that. Your job as an employee, wherever you work, is to make the boss money so that they can stay in business, so they can keep not just you employed, but all the other, your fellow employees and everyone else. Everyone's trying to feed their family at the end of the day and keep the show on the road. But the second thing that sets you apart as a professional is the symmetry and neatness and straightness of your work. Everyone, well, I don't know if everyone's seen it, but every plumber and every guy on the job has seen someone who just had some straight, beautiful, symmetric work, and it was just nice. Now, some guys have natural talent, but a lot of guys, believe it or not, they're just using the right tools. They're using tricks. When I have this speed square and I put it on a 2x4 and I have a perfect line, well, then I know I'm going to get a perfect cut and I'm going to have a straight 2x4. When I'm using these tin snips and I know that they're going to cut through that smoke pipe like butter and I got a beautiful straight line, I know that when that exposed piece of smoke pipe is out, it's going to be straight. It's going to look nice. When I'm using these crimpers to crimp the end of that smoke pipe to insert it into the chimney, or the liner in the chimney, I know that it's going to go in straight and it's going to go in effortlessly. Let's keep going. When I have this sheetrock saw and I've exposed the pipe and finished the problem, what I've left behind is a perfect square or rectangular, access point that we've used to, fix the problem, solve the customer's problem, that the next person, the carpenter, is going to go in there. It's going to make his job easier. And like many of you already know, and if you don't know, the trades is a small world. And your reputation precedes you. And let me tell you something, a bad reputation is a hard thing to fix. So you want to create a good name for yourself. You want to do neat work. So as we move forward, when I do my angle stops with this rigid wrench and they're perfectly straight and they're tightened just right, and I didn't over-tighten them and cause a leak, that's nice. When I can do them fast, that's great. When I have this bender and I put the perfect bend on that brush nickel toilet supply and the customer from outside to have a nice high-end toilet with that beautiful supply that goes into the angle stop that I've straightened with this, it's just like, wow, what plumber did this? They must be so great. Yes, they are. When you're using this screwdriver, all right? Now, here's the thing. This is going to add speed. Maybe they won't see the symmetry of the screws that are hidden behind the cabinet of that, Navian tankless, but you're going to be able to do the job faster. And the faster you can do one aspect of the job is the faster that the whole job will take. Because the one thing I'll let you know is when you're doing plumbing, okay, it's very tough to estimate how long a job's going to actually take. Because what looks easy or what looks simple, you may end up with a stripped screw. You may end up with an older rusted on screw. There's so many time wasters and time eaters that can arise when you're just doing the simplest job. And then lastly, this flat bar also going to add to your speed, prying out nails, holding things in place. Just, it's a workhorse. So these tools, like I said, I'll leave links in the description I'm pretty sure I can find all these tools. Whether you buy them through me or not, add them to your tool bag. They'll make a big difference. And at the end of the day, that's what we're all about. We're all about just trying to get the job done, get home to our families, and do some of the things that we like to do. So I hope this video was helpful. As usual, I appreciate you guys watching. If you got any value out of this, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for your time, guys, and have a great night.